There's a big difference in the strategies and mindset you need to make $100,000 versus $1 million versus 10 million or 100 million. Today we're going to talk about how to go from that $10 million mark to 100 million. In this video, I'm assuming you are already at around $10 million mark wanting to get to $100 million, which means you already have thought or improved in the following areas, or else you would have never gone to the 10 million. What I'm going to talk about afterwards is what it takes to go from the 10 million mark to $100 million. So what have you already gotten good at to get to the number that you are today? Here's 11 skills, of which many of them you've probably already mastered. Number 1, persuasion. Number 2, reading people. 3, sharing the wealth, which means you already kind of have a good comp structure with sales, with bonus, with profit sharing to make sure your best performers stay motivated, or else you wouldn't keep those guys. Number 4, leverage. Number 5, recruiting. Number 6, energy management. Number 7, how to process issues. 8 is time management. 9 is how to manage money. 10 is how to be aggressively patient. So those things I'm not going to talk about in this video. Here's the other 10 things that we talked about how to make your first million. 1, saying yes to almost everything. 2, figuring out the formulas and doubling down on them. 3, increasing activity. 4, removing multiple streams of income mentality. 5, protect your centers of influence. 6, leverage building a sales team or the right funnels or contacts. 7, pick one religion and stick to it. 8, protect your credit score. 9, track your savings and expenses. 10, specialize early, generalize later. Now let's talk about how to go from 10 to 100 million. It's very different. So point number 1, very confusing. You're going to get to a point that you have a lot of time on your hands. You're going to be like, wait a minute, why do I have so much time on my hands? Well, that's because you hired people. You got the right C-suites. If you're doing 10 million, you officially have been given back maybe 20, 30 hours a week. I'm doing a call last week with a few 7 C-suite executives, and one of the CEOs says, Pat, my company's doing 35 million a year. Money's coming in. We're breaking records every month, but I have nothing to do. And I don't even know what to do at this point. Is this when I celebrate? Is this when I go golf? Is this when I relax? What do I do now? If you're there for the first time, trust me, you're going to be confused, because people around you and your family, they're going to say, how's it feel knowing you made it? How does it feel knowing you're already there? The same meeting I'm talking about, a guy is sitting next to the $35 million guy who says, in 2021, I made 10 million, but in 2022, I made $500,000. My entire business collapsed. Why do you think that is? I said, how were you working in 2021? Is that I was working 60 hours a week. I said, how were you working in 2022? He says, no, in 2022, I was relaxing, enjoying going to the country club, my handicap improved. That's exactly what happened. Too often, when a person gets to 10 million and have all the time in their hands, rather than working on the business now, strategies, hiring, recruiting, growth, marketing, next campaign, next technology, next whatever may be, they get distracted thinking they're rich. Boom, that 10 million very quickly becomes 4 million, 3 million, 2 million. So point number 2 is managing boredom. This kind of goes with number 1, but let me explain to you what this means. You know, they say in bodybuilding, most of the time, if anybody ends up retiring bodybuilding, you're a champion, you go through a divorce. In sports, NBA, MLB, NFL, hey, the champion, the MVP, right after the end of the career, they typically get a divorce. Why? Your spouse is used to you being gone 8 months, 9 months, you're intense. You're competing. Now you come home, now your spouse could be your competitor. Typically, they say divorces happen after vacation because you're not accustomed to spending time with your wife and kids for a week. You come back, she's the enemy, all that stuff. So look, none of this stuff is anything new when you're bored. I mean, Benjamin Franklin one time said, idle hands are the devil's playthings. When you have too much time on your hands, you got drugs, you got alcohol, you got partying, you got gambling, and you got money, and now you got time, and you're working on your business. Oh my God, no one's gonna notice what you're picking up on the side except for your personal life. So this is the second point you got to make sure you fight. If you're going to go from 10 to 100 million, like, you still haven't given me a strategy. First, we got to make sure you don't screw this thing up that you've built up to 10 million to get to $100 million. So look, this is a natural transition into our sponsor today, which is BetterHelp. And what BetterHelp is, the largest online therapy platform in the world. They have 25,000 licensed therapists to talk to. The reason why we decided to team up with these guys, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as an operator, we hate the fact that we need to talk to somebody. And sometimes you're alone, but you need to talk to somebody. But you don't want to go into an office with 7 other licensed therapists and you're waiting, and when your client sees you and says, oh my God, what are you doing here? This is your therapist as well? You're embarrassed to do that, right? Because God forbid if somebody catches you doing that. This eliminates that because you have 25,000 licensed therapists to choose from. If one doesn't work, they'll replace it for you at no cost. So look, if you're a hard-charging entrepreneur, you're running, you're making all the decisions, you have a little bit of stress, anxiety, you feel lonely, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, I feel overwhelmed. Join the 2 million other people like yourself who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Again, BetterHelp.com/Valuetainment. Once again, BetterHelp.com/Valuetainment. Point number 3 is, again, a contradiction of how to make your first million. When I said how to make your first million, say yes to almost everything. In this area, to go from 10 to 100 million, you have to say no to almost everything. Let me explain to you why. Yesterday at 11 o'clock at night, I get a text with some guy talking about there's a fire we got to put out, Pat, I got to get you on a call. I said, what's it about? He tells me XYZ. He said, have you talked to this person yet? No. How about that person? How about this person yet? Talk to them, come to me last. This is not a 10. He goes to them. He says, we scored it all. We're good to go. Whereas 7 years years ago, I would have said yes. Now, you have enough firefighters to put out fire to address issues that you no longer need because the company needs you to be working on the big. That's what the company needs. If you're only working on protecting what you build and you're not playing offense, the company is going to get smaller and smaller. Everybody in the company is hoping you're doing strategies to take the company to the next level. And to do that, you need to say no to the small things and let your leadership team handle that. And if it's anything that turns big, they got to come to you, and you need to focus your time into the big things. Point number 4 is about focusing what areas you need to go deeper on. Let me explain to what I mean by this. So if you're doing 10 million a year and you're already at a number like that, you have better data. You probably have a track record of different quarters, different months, different seasons, different days, different weeks. Just today, we got data that showed us number one day in America to sell your home is May 23rd. Think about that number. How do we have that data? Well, because somebody tracks the data of what is the best selling day to sell your home. Summertime. It's kind of like saying, when do you buy a motorcycle? When it's winter. When do you not buy a motorcycle? In July. When do you buy a convertible? Typically December, January, because no one wants a convertible if the weather is cold. When do you not buy a convertible? Do you see how this thing goes? So you now have data to look at and say, okay, here's what I'm noticing. This customer, we can really focus on these 3 customers and go deeper with them. This director, he's been doing a lot. She's been doing a lot. I think this person's got what it takes to be a C-suite. Let's go deeper. Let's invest into her here. Let's invest in them. What school do we need to send them to? What next course do they need to learn? Do they need to go to an executive program at Wharton, Harvard, whatever it may be? They need to get better. This is the time to go find out exactly what you have and say, we're going to go deeper in these following areas within the business. Okay, so point number 5 and 6 are going to contradict each other, so just kind of hang tight. Number 5 is HR. There's a big difference between running a team with less than 50 employees. You got 13 employees, 14 employees, 22 employees, maybe even 38 employees. It's still manageable. You all of a sudden go to 100 employees, 200 employees, 500 employees. Now you're national. You got offices all over the place. Now you have HR issues. Now you need to do training on HR. Now you have all these different challenges you're facing with HR. So this person doesn't get along with that person. This person doesn't like working with this person. There was a falling out. That person had a breakup. These 2 employees dated. There's a lot of different things you're dealing here, which means your HR team has to be a better quality HR team with more experience, understanding different dynamics, creating better structures, better guidelines, clearer guidelines, benefits. All of that needs to be shot, because if you want to recruit better talent as well, they're going to be asking you, what's your health benefits? What's your retirement plan? What's this? What's that? These are the types of questions that higher quality people are going to ask when they come to your company. So HR is going to give you some problems. Don't make HR an area you don't pay any attention to. So point number 6, here's the contradiction with point number 5. The company's growing, and a different management style you have to do to manage 200 employees versus 25. Here's what's going to happen. As you start hiring people with degrees, Ivy League, Harvard, I went to Wharton, I went to Yale, I went to this, I went to this. They come in and all of a sudden they say, well, I propose we do a 3-day work week. The other 2 days they work from home. But your culture doesn't fit that. It doesn't work with your industry. It doesn't work with your culture. But you're sitting there in your mind, you're like, yeah, but this guy went to Harvard. Maybe he knows what he's doing, and I don't know what I'm doing. You second guess yourself, and then you compromise your culture. When you compromise your culture, now they know you don't stand for anything. So now they know there really has never been a culture in this company. It was all about winging it. Just because somebody comes with a fancy degree with HR, it's important that, yes, standards may change. Yes, you may have systems. Yes, you may have certain things, but not at the cost of the culture that got the company to $10 million. That didn't happen accidentally. You did a few things right to get the company to 10 million. Don't compromise it just because somebody comes with a fancy degree. Point number 7, your business is slowly becoming a small country, maybe a village, maybe a city, depending on the size, meaning there's different political parties. Here's what the political parties look like. You got the Republican Party. The Republican Party are the people that have been with you from day one. They're very protective of the company. They take a lot of pride. They're protective of you. And anybody that comes in, they're afraid they're going to hurt the company, right? You have to stay generally the independent to the right a little bit. Then you have the Democratic Party, which is people that are coming from Fortune 1000 companies, Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies with fancy degrees, Harvard, Yale, Wharton. Well, you listen, here's what we need to do if we're really going to make this work. We have to start doing this. And these guys are like, no, we're not doing that. Listen, my hand's been clean. I don't even touch paper anymore. Here's what I do. That's not the culture we have. We have startup mentality. You're out of your mind. In this moment, when I went through it, first time I screwed it up. Let me tell you what I did the second time. Second time around, I brought a consultant in and I said, look, I need your help. She came in. Here's what we're going through as a company. I need you to go interview everybody. Tell me what questions you're going to be asking. Go interview them. And let's do a meeting with me being in there. Don't tell me who gave what answers. But let's go through it. No problem. She went in. Okay, and she stayed with us till today, by the way. This lady's been doing business with us for nearly 7 years. She went in, she interviewed everybody with different questions, and then came back. Here's what people are worried about. Here's what people fear. Here's what people this. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm listening. So, okay, that's on me. That's on me. I can't see who would do that. I can see how we need to improve in that. Then all of a sudden, everybody felt safer to speak openly. Once it was safer and you play the role of the middle, then you can help them come together because debate becomes safe. It's hard to do. You have to do it. If you don't do it, you will have different cliques in your organization, and then when lunch comes, you'll see 7 people all from the same department go to lunch, 6 people all from the same philosophy go to lunch. You don't have a company. You have a bunch of divisions in your company. So you got to do this early before it's too late. Here's the next part. This one's tricky. You have to pay very close. By the way, if you've been through this before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to have former disgruntled employees. You just are. How do people become disgruntled employees? Very simple. You fired them. They left you. They had equity. They came in and they quit 3 years before the company sold. They came in and they decided to leave because they didn't think the company was going to be big, and the company blew up and missed out. They're not happy about it. You think they are? There was a book written, I want to say in 1985 or something like that, called The Accidental Millionaire. Do you know what the whole book is about? The whole book talks trash about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Do you know how many 60-minute shows has been done where former employees talk trash about how horrible of a boss Steve Jobs was? Do you know how many? Many. You know why? Because people love that drama. They love it, and you're gonna have it. So how do you handle it? Some of them you can't do nothing about. Nothing. Others, you have to learn the art of letting people go gently. And the bigger you get, they're going to be even more angry. And the more money you make, they're constantly going to be angry. Because can you imagine the question they have to be asked for the rest of their lives? Here's what the questions sound like. Hey, weren't you like employee number 28 at Facebook? Hey, weren't you like at Google at the beginning? You think they like those questions? They wish it never happened. Because if they would have stuck around, they would have been millionaires. And they left. So it's not easy. So you have to figure out a way to work with former disgruntled employees and try to let go of them as gently as possible, and don't piss them off even more than you already have, even though you didn't do anything. You just grew a company. This kind of goes with number 8, and you'll see where I'm going with this. But it's hard to do, but you have to do it. Let me explain to you what this is. There comes a time, like for me, I was a person all my friends would pick on the basketball team because I was tall and big, but I wasn't that good of a basketball player. So some of the guys that were smaller than me, I was always on a starting 5 lineup when we're playing pickup. Then all of a sudden I noticed they're not picking me no more. The other guys got better than me. And one of our friends who was very good in basketball, he stopped picking me. And that feeling as a 14-year-old, I was like, how come you didn't pick me? Was I not good enough? I wasn't. I just wasn't. The other guys got better than me in basketball. In baseball, I was still, they would pick me up at the top because I was a good hitter. And I would run, I was fast, I could catch the ball. But in basketball, I was no longer top 5. Trust me, I hated it as a kid. What does this mean? In a company, at a certain point, you're going to have to upgrade the talent that you currently have. You have one of 2 choices. Either the people that have been with you are going to tell you why you need to pay them 50% more, but they're the same as they were 2 years ago. You either have to challenge them to say who they need to become, and if they don't, you have to go hire somebody from a company, a startup experience that you don't currently have, and bring them in and shake it up a little bit. Those people don't up their games, well, guess what? They're not ready for the next phase of the company. If they do up their games, now you got 2 killers going to the next phase of the company. But you cannot sit there trying to please everybody, knowing these guys have been kicking back, working a regular schedule because you allow them. You are compromising getting better quality talent at a company, and the company deserves you to have the courage to make the tough decision and upgrade your talent. All right, point number 10. This one's gonna be crazy. So now you're rich, you got money, you know it, you're doing good. You got a lot of things you can lose. The house, cars, the fame, the freedom, the VIP table in the back of the restaurant you go to, and your waitress, Maria, treats you royally and you love it. But now you could potentially lose it. So what do? You do what many teams who have a big lead in the first half of the Super Bowl or an NBA championship, they come out second half and the coach plays scared, like the Atlanta Falcons did against Tom Brady. They're up 28-3. Like, oh my God, just let's play safe. Let's not make any big risks. So you don't throw the ball anymore to score touchdowns. Boom. And a guy like Tom Brady comes, takes you out, you're out of business. It doesn't matter how big you are. Even the biggest companies have to take risks. You got to take risks. You ain't that big. You're only at 10 million. So if you hesitate to take the next level risk at this phase, you're going to pay a price. I've taken a lot of risks. Maybe on paper it didn't make sense, but I had to do it at that season of the company, or else we would have stayed where we were at. You also have to do the same. I'm not telling you be reckless. Not at all. There's levels to risk. You have the time to be a little bit more methodical. You have the time to be a little bit more strategic. But can you compromise taking risks? You cannot if you want want to get to 100 million. And I got two bonuses for you, 2 bonus points. One of them is Valuation today is all about being tech enabled. I had a guy that came in here the other day, we're sitting at, he's doing 32 million a year, good sized business, extremely profitable. And we sat there for a couple hours and we're speaking. And he says, hey, you know, I've been stuck at 32 million for the last 2 years and I can't move a number like this. What do I do? I said, so tell me about your team, your org chart, your management team, your savings, your schedule, what are you doing, expansion, opportunities, ads, marketing. So we went through all of that, right? And I said, tell me about your technology. What do you mean? What technology do you have? Well, I don't know what you're asking. What is your technology? How much of it is automated? Well, I'm using this and I'm using this. Okay, what can you add? Because your goal, you want to sell this company for $1 billion. Yes. Today, no one's buying any companies that's not backed up by great technology. Netflix is all about their technology. Amazon is technology. Facebook is technology. Google is technology. Even small companies that are being bought for high valuation, it's being bought because they have unique technology. So what are you doing to increase the valuation of the company because of technology? We invested in our tech, a software called Bamboo, and we put $10 million into it. Well, that increased the value of the company, not by $10 million. It increased the value of the company by 5 times the investment we put into it like this within 18 months because it was tech enabled. I was able to update my leaders bulletin for competition from once a day to 30,000 times a day. So if a guy submitted an insurance policy in New York and it hit the leaders button, within 3 seconds, everybody in the country knew that person in New York just wrote a policy. I didn't have that before. Communication, nearly 10 million messages on this Bamboo from agents across the country talking with each other. We didn't have that before. That created competition. That was able to get things quicker. Sharing client. I got this client. Can somebody go talk to them? No problem. Messages. Took the company to the next level. So if you want to get to 100 to the next marker, you have to think about how you can make your company tech enabled. And the extra point that I have, the second extra point that I have is your network. If you grew from 100K, your friends are making 100K, you're also making 100K, great. But if you want to get to $1 million, your network, business network associates, some of them have to be making $1 million a year. They're going to talk to you and you're going to see how they act and think to make $1 million. Now you get to $1 million. Now if you're at $1 million, everybody around you are only at $1 million. You want to get to 10 million, you got to get a couple colleagues that are making 10 million. You got to upgrade your network and be around others that are doing 100 million a year, even though you're at 10 million, to be like, oh my God, I'm the smallest guy in the room here. The more you're the smallest guy in the room, the more you grow. The more you're the biggest guy in the room, the less you grow. Very simple. If you always want to feel like you're the most powerful guy in the room, keep doing that. If you want to keep growing, always be the smallest guy in the room. Somehow, some way you keep growing. And then all of a sudden the competition gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but stronger and stronger and stronger. So you may want to increase your business network and go hang around with some people or find them in certain masterminds that can challenge your mindset. That was the extra credit, point number 2 that we gave. So if you watch it till the end and you're not at 10 million, but you're like, I'm curious because I think one day I will be, no problem. So you got 2 videos to watch that you haven't seen yet. One of them is how to make your first million. If you haven't seen it, watch this. The other one is 11 skills to master as a millionaire. If you've not watched that, click here to watch it. Either way, if you got value from it, subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.